The terror of the void, the nightmare that haunted stars in the dark corners of the galaxy, where stars barely whispered light across the void, there existed a name that made entire civilizations tremble. The Shadowclaw was not just a warship. It was death itself, wrapped in black metal and powered by the screams of 1,000 conquered worlds. For 37 standard galactic years, this massive vessel had carved a path of destruction through space, leaving nothing but silent planets and drifting debris in its wake. The ship stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Its hull, crafted from an unknown dark alloy that seemed to absorb light itself. Weapons bristled from every surface, and its engines burned with an eerie purple flame that could be seen from light years away. But what truly made the Shadowclaw terrifying was not its size or firepower. It was the being who commanded it. The monster who knew no mercy. Captain Zex Moran stood over 3 meters tall, his reptilian features scarred by countless battles. His forearms moved with deadly precision as he commanded his bridge crew, and his 6 yellow eyes never missed a detail. Moran belonged to no known species. Some whispered he was the last of a race that had destroyed itself in civil war. Others claimed he was something far worse, a creature born from the darkest experiments of a mad civilization. What everyone knew for certain was that Zex Moran had never shown mercy. His ship appeared without warning, demanded total surrender. And when that surrender came, he destroyed everything anyway. Planets, space stations, entire fleets. Nothing survived an encounter with the Shadowclaw. Moran collected the most advanced technology from each conquest, constantly upgrading his vessel until it became something beyond conventional understanding. The bridge of the Shadowclaw was a monument to his victories. Trophy cases lined the walls, filled with the crown jewels of dead kings, the sacred artifacts of extinct religions, and the command codes of destroyed fleets. In the center of it all sat Moran's command throne, carved from the crystallized remains of the last Arcturian emperor. When giants trembled, the Galactic Council, representing 47 different species across 3 spiral arms, had tried everything to stop the Shadowclaw. The Therian Empire, masters of quantum warfare, sent their entire 7th fleet to intercept Moran near the Vega system. They never returned. The crystalline hierarchy, beings of pure energy who could manipulate matter, at the molecular level, attempted to simply dissolve the Shadowclaw from existence. Their home dimension was sealed permanently 3 days later. Even the mighty Draconis Federation, whose dragon ships had never known defeat, fell before Moran's tactical genius. Their admiral, Flame Speaker Korath, transmitted one final message. Before his flagship exploded in brilliant fire, he fights like he knows our every move before we make it. The Shadowclaw is not just a ship. It is prophecy of our ending. The pattern was always the same. Civilizations would band together, pool their resources, and launch what they believed to be an unstoppable force against the Shadowclaw. And one by one, they would discover that Moran had been studying them for years, learning their tactics, stealing their technology, preparing counters to every strategy they might employ. Fear became the galaxy's constant companion. Trade routes shifted to avoid regions where the Shadowclaw had been spotted. Entire sectors went dark, their inhabitants choosing isolation over the risk of discovery. The council sessions, once filled with proud debates about expansion and exploration, became whispered discussions about survival and hiding, the signal that changed everything. Dr. Elena Vasquez was monitoring deep space communications from the Arecibo 3 facility when she detected something impossible. A signal was reaching Earth from beyond the edge of the solar system, and it was not natural. The transmission carried mathematical sequences, star charts, and what appeared to be a desperate plea for help in over a dozen different languages. "Admiral Chun, you need to see this immediately," Elena called out, her voice tight with excitement. And fear, The message she had decoded was simple but earth-shattering. Warning to unknown civilization. The Shadow Claw approaches your sector. Evacuate immediately or prepare for extinction. The Galactic Council extends this final courtesy to all sentient life. Admiral Sarah Chun of the United Earth Defense Force stared at the translated message for long minutes without speaking. At 45, she had dedicated her life to protecting humanity, but she had always imagined threats coming from Earth itself, rogue nations, terrorists, natural disasters. The idea that something out there among the stars could threaten all of human civilization was both terrifying and somehow thrilling. How long until this Shadow Claw reaches our system? She asked finally. Elena consulted her calculations. Based on the trajectory data in the transmission, approximately 6 months. Admiral, there's something else. We have a colony on Kepler 442b, 3,000 people, including families. If this ship is as dangerous as the message suggests, ... Chun nodded grimly. The Kepler colony had been humanity's first successful settlement beyond the solar system, a symbol of human achievement and hope for the future. The colonists were scientists, engineers, and pioneers who had volunteered to spend their lives building a new world for their children. The choice that defined humanity. The emergency session of the World Council lasted 18 hours. Representatives from every nation on Earth debated furiously about humanity's response to the galactic warning. Some demanded immediate evacuation of the Kepler colony and a complete communications blackout to hide Earth's location. Others argued for attempting diplomatic contact with this galactic council to negotiate safe passage. Admiral Chun listened to the debates with growing frustration. Politicians talked about cost-benefit analysis and acceptable losses, but they were not the ones who would have to look colonists in the eye and tell them they were being abandoned. When she finally stood to address the council, her words cut through the noise like a blade. Ladies and gentlemen, you are discussing this as if we have a choice in the matter. According to the intelligence we have received, this Shadow Claw has never spared anyone who surrendered. Evacuation will not save the colonists. It will only delay their deaths and mark us as cowards. President Martinez of the Earth Federation leaned forward. Then what do you propose, Admiral? That we fight a battle we cannot possibly win? Chun's response would echo through human history. I propose we show this galaxy what humanity looks like when cornered. We have never been the strongest or the fastest or the smartest species on our own planet, but we have always been the most stubborn. When pushed to the wall, humans do not surrender. We adapt, we improvise, and we find a way to win. A vote was closer than anyone expected, but the decision was made. Humanity would stand and fight, preparing for the unknown. The next 6 months transformed human civilization. Every nation contributed to the war effort, sharing technology and resources in ways that had seemed impossible just months before. International Space Station was converted into a military command center. Lunar bases that had been mining facilities became weapons manufacturing plants. Mars colonies worked around the clock to produce new types of armor and shielding. But humanity's greatest advantage was not their industry or their determination. It was their ignorance. Every other species in the galaxy knew the Shadow Claw was unbeatable, so they fought with the desperation of the doomed. Humans did not know they were supposed to lose, so they prepared to win. Dr. James Park, Earth's leading expert in theoretical physics, worked with teams of engineers to develop weapons based on principles that galactic civilizations had dismissed as impossible. If this ship can absorb energy weapons and deflect kinetic projectiles, he explained to Admiral Chun, then we need to hit it with something completely unexpected, something that does not behave like conventional matter. Meanwhile, Colonel Maria Santos led training exercises that pushed human military doctrine to its limits. We have no idea what we're facing, she told her officers, so we prepare for everything. We train for space combat, boarding actions, electronic warfare, and psychological operations. When the Shadow Claw arrives, we will be ready to fight it in ways it has never experienced. A most important preparation, however, was happening. In communications centers around the world, humanity was reaching out to the galaxy, not with pleas for help, but with an offer of alliance. The message was simple and direct. To all civilizations who have suffered under the Shadow Claw, humanity stands ready to fight. Join us, and together we will end this threat forever. The monster arrives when the Shadow Claw finally emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. It was everything the warnings had promised and worse. The ship's dark hull seemed to bend light around it, creating an aura of wrongness. That made human sensors malfunction. Its weapons were already charging, purple energy crackling along massive cannon barrels that could reduce planets to ash. Captain Zex Moran stood on his bridge, studying the primitive solar system before him. His intelligence networks had informed him that this species, these humans, had refused to evacuate their colony. They had even sent defiant messages to his ship, challenging him to battle. It was amusing in a pathetic way. "Captain," his weapons officer reported, "we are detecting unusual energy signatures throughout the system. The humans appear to have constructed some kind of defensive network." Morin's multiple eyes focused on the tactical display. Indeed, there were structures hidden among the asteroids, weapons platforms disguised as mining equipment, and what appeared to be entire fleets of small, fast ships moving in coordinated patterns. It was more resistance than he usually encountered, but still nothing that concerned him. "Open a channel to the planet they call Earth," he commanded. "Let me speak to whoever leads these creatures." The transmission reached Admiral Chun at the Arecibo Command Center. When Morin's image appeared on the screen, his alien features and cold yellow eyes sent chills through everyone present. But Chun stood straight and met his gaze without flinching. "I am Captain Zex Moran of the Shadow Claw," the alien said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "You have 5 minutes to surrender unconditionally, or I will demonstrate why 47 civilizations have learned to fear my name." Admiral Chun's reply was calm and steady. "I am Admiral Sarah Chun of the United Earth Defense Force. You have 30 seconds to leave our system, or you will discover why no one has ever successfully conquered humanity." For the first time in decades, Zex Moran was surprised. This small, primitive creature was actually threatening him. Him, the terror of the void, the destroyer of worlds, the being who had made gods kneel and beg for mercy. His laughter echoed. Across the communication channel, a sound like breaking glass and dying stars. "Very well, Admiral Chun. You have chosen extinction. I will make your deaths educational for the rest of the galaxy." The Shadow Claw began to move toward Earth, its engines burning with malevolent purple fire. But as it advanced, something unexpected happened. Signals began reaching the ship from across the galaxy. One by one, alien civilizations that had hidden in fear for decades were emerging from the shadows. The message they all carried was the same: humanity fights. We stand with them. Asterisk united we stand. When the hunted became hunters, the first response came from the Kethera sector, a region that had been dark and silent for 12 years. The transmission was crackling with interference, but the voice that came through was strong and proud. "Admiral Chun of Earth, I am War Leader Thane Kethera, last survivor of the Kethera homeworld. My people died refusing to kneel to the Shadow Claw. If humans truly intend to fight, then the Kethera fleet will stand beside you." Admiral Chun felt her heart racing as she watched her communications board light up with incoming signals from across the galaxy. Each message brought new hope and new responsibility. These civilizations were emerging from hiding because humanity had given them something they had lost, the belief that victory was possible. The Kethra were the first to arrive. Their ships were smaller than the Shadowclaw, but built for war. Each vessel was crewed by warrior poets who viewed battle as the highest form of art. War leader Thane himself stood nearly 2.5 meters tall, his blue-scaled skin marked with ritual scars that told the story of his battles. When he materialized on the bridge of the Earth Command Station via hologram, his first words were, "Show me your battle plans, Admiral. Let us make Moran pay for our worlds." The Collective Awakens, the second major response, came from an unexpected source. The Vortani Collective had been the galaxy's premier technology developers before the Shadowclaw began its reign of terror. They were beings of pure intellect, their physical bodies replaced long ago with mechanical shells that allowed them to interface directly with their computers. For 20 years, they had hidden in mobile research stations, constantly moving. To avoid detection, Dr. Zara 9, the Collective's primary representative, appeared as a shimmering hologram of light and geometric patterns. Her voice was musical, created by harmonizing frequencies rather than vocal cords. "Admiral Chun, we have observed your species' approach to problem solving. It is ... chaotic, but remarkably effective. We offer our technological expertise in exchange for your tactical innovation." The Vortani brought gifts that transformed humanity's war effort overnight. They provided shield generators that could deflect the Shadowclaw's energy weapons, sensors that could track ships through hyperspace, and most importantly, a complete database of the Shadowclaw's technical specifications. They had been studying Moron's ship for decades, analyzing every battle, cataloging every weapon upgrade. The Shadowclaw's greatest strength is also its weakness, Dr. Zara 9 explained to the assembled human commanders. Moron has incorporated technology from dozens of conquered civilizations, but he has never fully integrated these systems. There are harmonic frequencies that could cause cascade failures throughout his ship. We simply need to deliver the right resonance at the right time. The Merchant's Revenge, the third major ally, came from the Zelix Republic, former masters of galactic trade who had built an empire on commerce and negotiation. Their ships were not warships, but converted cargo haulers and passenger liners. Yet, they brought something equally valuable. Intelligence. Captain Jorik Zelix was a member of the Republic's ruling merchant family, and his hatred for Moran burned like a white-hot star. The Shadowclaw had destroyed 3 major Zelix trading hubs, killing millions and destroying the economic networks that had taken centuries to build. "Admiral Chun," Jorik said during their first meeting, "we cannot match Moron's firepower, but we know his patterns. For 37 years, we have tracked his movements, analyzed his methods, studied his psychology. He is not random in his destruction. He follows patterns, and patterns can be predicted." The Zelix brought detailed maps of Moron's previous campaigns, psychological profiles based on intercepted communications, and most valuable of all, information about his supply lines. The Shadowclaw might seem invincible, but it still needed resources, maintenance, and fuel. Operation Unity, with allies gathering from across the galaxy. Admiral Chun convened the first multi-species war council in galactic history. The meeting took place on the lunar surface, in a hastily constructed facility that could accommodate beings of wildly different physiologies. Humans breathed oxygen. Kethera required high-pressure nitrogen. Vortani existed as energy patterns, and Zelix needed low gravity to support their fragile bone structure. The diversity was staggering, but so was the determination. Each species brought their own strengths to the alliance. Humans provided tactical flexibility and an almost supernatural ability to adapt under pressure. Kethera contributed raw fighting skill and warrior's courage. Vortani offered advanced technology and analytical capabilities. Zelix brought intelligence networks and logistical expertise. We cannot defeat the Shadow Claw by fighting it the way others have fought it, Admiral Chun addressed the council. Every previous attempt has failed because they tried to match Moron's strengths. We will succeed because we will attack his weaknesses. The plan they developed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of one massive fleet attacking head-on, Operation Unity would employ coordinated strikes from multiple directions using each species' unique capabilities. Phase 1 would begin with the Zelix using their intelligence networks to predict the Shadow Claw's next move and feed Moron false information about Earth's defenses. Phase 2 would see Vortani technology deployed to disrupt the Shadow Claw's integrated systems, creating windows of vulnerability. Phase 3 would unleash the Kethera, warriors in direct assault, while human forces provided support and coordination. The battle begins when the Shadow Claw finally moved to attack the Kepler colony. Moran believed he was facing a typical defensive action. His sensors detected human ships moving in standard formations, energy signatures that matched primitive Earth technology, and defensive positions that seemed hastily constructed. What he did not detect were the cloaked Vortani research vessels positioned throughout the system. The Kethera assault ships hidden within asteroid fields, or the Zelix intelligence drones that had been tracking his ship's every system for weeks. The battle began exactly as Moran expected. Human ships engaged his forward scouts, falling back in apparent panic as the Shadow Claw advanced. His weapon systems charged to full power, preparing to deliver the devastating first strike that had broken so many other civilizations. That was when Dr. Zara 9 activated her harmonic resonance generators. Asterisk. The Shadow Claw shuddered as previously stable systems began to interfere with each other. Weapons that had functioned perfectly for decades suddenly experienced power fluctuations. Shield generators that had never failed began cycling erratically. For the first time in his career, Captain Zex Moran felt his ship responding sluggishly to his commands. What is happening? He roared at his bridge crew, his forearms slamming against control surfaces as he tried to compensate for systems failures. Throughout his ship, his answer came in the form of Kethera battle cries, echoing across all frequencies, as War Leader Thane's assault fleet emerged from hiding. The Kethera ships were smaller and faster than the Shadow Claw, and they used their mobility to devastating effect. They swarmed around Moran's vessel like angry wasps, striking at specific targets that the Vortani had identified as critical systems. The legend falls as the battle raged. Admiral Chun coordinated the Alliance forces from her command center on Earth. She watched as decades of fear and oppression were finally answered with coordinated fury. The Shadow Claw, which had seemed invincible for so long, was being systematically dismantled by beings who had learned to work together. Moran's main engines are offline, reported Captain Santos from her assault ship. Kethera forces have breached his lower weapon decks. Harmonic resonance is reaching critical levels, added Dr. Zara 9. His shield matrix will collapse in approximately 4 minutes. Intelligence indicates his command crew is panicking. Captain Jorix observed with satisfaction. They have never faced coordinated resistance before. But Moran was not finished. Even with his ship failing around him, the terror of the void had one final gambit. He activated his ship's self-destruct sequence, intending to take as many of his enemies with him as possible. The explosion would destroy everything within 3 light minutes, including the Kepler colony and much of the Alliance fleet. That was when humanity showed the galaxy why they deserved to lead the new alliance. All ships, this is Admiral Chun. Her voice carried calm authority, even as sensors showed the Shadow Claw's reactor building toward critical mass. Execute Protocol 7. All human vessels, ramming speed toward the Shadow Claw. We're going to push that ship into the system's outer edge before it explodes. The maneuver was insane, suicidal, and completely impossible according to conventional physics. But humans had never been limited by what was supposed to be possible. 50 Earth Defense Force ships engaged their engines at maximum burn, using their combined momentum to physically push the massive Shadowclaw away from inhabited areas. The other Alliance members watched in amazement as human crews knowingly flew toward certain death to save their allies. Cathera warriors, who prided themselves on courage, were humbled by the casual heroism. Vortani scientists, who thought in terms of logic and probability, could not compute how humans made such sacrificial decisions so quickly. Captain Zex Moran, in his final moments, finally understood why his reign of terror was ending. He had conquered through fear, but these beings fought through love. Love for their colonies, love for their allies, love for the future they were building together. The Shadowclaw exploded in brilliant light at the edge of the system, its destruction marking the end of 37 years of galactic nightmares. Of the 50 human ships that pushed it to safety, only 12 survived the explosion. But their sacrifice saved millions of lives and proved to the galaxy that humanity could be trusted to lead new beginnings. In the aftermath of the battle, representatives from hundreds of civilizations converged on Earth. Species that had hidden in fear for decades emerged to join what became known as the Terran Alliance. Humans, despite being the newest members of galactic civilization, found themselves at the center of a new golden age of cooperation and exploration. Admiral Sarah Chun, now promoted to Alliance Supreme Commander, stood in the newly constructed Unity Station orbiting Earth. Through the observation deck's massive windows, she could see ships from dozens of different worlds working together to build a better future. War Leader Thane approached, his ritual scars now including new markings that honored his human allies. Admiral Chun, my people have a saying, the strongest steel is forged in the hottest fires. Humanity was forged in the fire of standing alone against impossible odds. That is why the galaxy will follow you. Dr. 09's holographic form shimmered. Beside them, your species has shown us something we had forgotten in our fear of the Shadowclaw. Sometimes the greatest victory comes not from superior technology or ancient wisdom, but from the simple courage to stand up and say no more. Captain. Jorix added his own perspective. The markets are already responding to the new stability. Trade routes that have been closed for decades are reopening. Worlds that went dark are sending out signals. The galaxy is waking up from a long nightmare. As Admiral Chun looked out at the ships of the new alliance, she thought about the message. That had started it all, the warning about the Shadowclaw that had seemed like humanity's death sentence. Instead, it had become their invitation to join something greater than themselves. The most dangerous ship in the galaxy had fallen, not because Earth refused to stand down, but because Earth refused to stand alone. In bringing together former enemies and forgotten allies, humanity had learned that the greatest strength was not in any single ship or weapon, but in the bonds between different peoples united by common cause. The galaxy would remember the battle of Kepler 442b, not as the day the Shadowclaw fell, but as the day the stars learned to trust each other again. And at the center of that trust stood humanity, the stubborn species that had looked into the void and refused to blink. The terror of the void was ended. The age of unity had begun.